Hey, guys. Super excited to be coming to you with another episode of the Speakeasy podcast, where we go behind the scenes and talking about what it means to be the successfully paid speaker or author. I am your host, Altavis Pelzer, your voice manager. I unmute the voice of women who are ready to speak up about what has kept her silent for way too long. With that being said, guys, this particular episode, man, oh man, we about to dive in deep. Because it was during a podcast interview I was doing earlier today that I said, wow, I've probably connected with and reached out to and did trainings in front of about 50 to 100,000 people while in quarantine. And the host was like, what? And I was like, yeah, word. But it made for an interesting thought that popped in my head. Hashtag unmuted, recreating the speaker stage. So with that being said, we're going to dive into today's topic. Okay, guys, so I was doing a podcast interview, and while doing the interview, I made a statement, and it just kind of flowed out of my mouth as I was speaking. I said, man, I've probably done about close to being in front of maybe 100,000 people within this time of quarantine when it comes to everything that I do, but added that I've had, speaking opportunities even while in quarantine. And the host was like, what? Are you serious? And I said, yeah. It's kind of crazy because I'm in the house. I got 4 teenagers that are pretty loud. And here it is. I've still been able to get in front of the people who are my target audience, which are women. But I've also had the opportunity to speak in front of youth and other different, platforms. It's been amazing. So in the time that we've been in quarantine, I've been in front of almost 50,000 people with virtual trainings that I've done or virtual summits. I've been a part of 4 virtual summits with another 2 that I am that are coming up, and another 1 that was my own summit that I did as a pop-up summit. So here it is, 7 virtual summits. I've done about 6 or 7 podcast interviews, that part. I've done virtual meetups, and it's interesting because for me as an introvert, I'm in my element, right? Because I'm a behind the scenes person. I'm the person that I thrive on being able to sit by myself and recollect myself, gain that energy back and some alone time. Although I'm not alone with the teens being home right now and homeschooling, but I can still take some time out for me. And so it really stood out when I said, okay, wow, you really have done some work as a speaker. So why am I still hearing the number 1 complaint among speakers saying, I have no stage? No, dear. It's not that you don't have a stage. It's that you're not using it. Oh, I know. Okay. So that was probably a little painful for some of you because you're used to the old way of doing things. You're used to the old way of speaking, going to an event, speaking on a stage, converting people from the audience. And so this transition or pivot, my favorite word that I use, this pivot to doing things virtually, man, you just don't know how to make this work. You're looking and going, no, I'm completely done. I lost out on money because I couldn't get in front of people. And honestly, you still can very much get in front of your target audience on a consistent basis. So the summits that I've been a part of this year, well, not even this year, but just, over the last couple months, I'll say, have really been great. But then also I've had community organizations who have Facebook groups on, who've been reaching out and saying, hey, we're doing trainings in my community. Could you do a training for my group? Now, I've had, I think the highest amount has been almost 25,000 in a community. And then the lowest has been maybe a little over 100 people in a community, which gives a huge range of the amount of people that I've been in front of when it comes to doing one training at one time. The other thing about it is most of you as speakers, think being on the stage, I got to be on there for 45 minutes to an hour. I got to do a 2-hour keynote. I got to listen, the times they have changed. And I've been speaking on this for maybe a couple years now because we've seen this pivot happening over time, but people were still very scared to say yes to the opportunity. So what did saying yes to the opportunity mean for me? Well, it's definitely put me in position for events after quarantine ends, because we do know and understand that, guess what? Quarantine is not going to last forever. And so after this, are people going to want to look for you because they've seen you being consistent? That part, not everyone can say yes. So because they did not know how to ride the wave or how to kind of maneuver things during this time of pivoting. So I want to give you 3 valuable things that you can do as a speaker to be able to still stay relevant, to stay in front of your target audience, and not just that, to pivot. Reality check. When we think about Dr. Maya Angelou and what being a speaker meant for her, it meant traveling to events, 80 events in a year's time. It meant, and this is a time where there wasn't necessarily social media. There wasn't text messaging. People were literally calling. You remember the phone call where if somebody was on the line, you couldn't get through. You remember, the flyers that everybody had to print out and hand out, and you coming outside from shopping and there was a flyer underneath your windshield wiper. You know the old school tactics and methods of getting people to an event. But imagine we're at a place and a space where we have that same reach right from the comfort of our own home. We have the same reach from our office, from our front yard, backyard, wherever you decide you want to press the button, or you have that access. Access has been granted, which is really valuable. And so when we think about the three things that I want to talk about is being consistent in your message, networking, and learning and leading with service, being a servant leader. And being consistent in your message is a very important thing, especially right now. What I've found is that there's a lot of speakers who are changing up what it is they're speaking on, and they're changing up their delivery because they're in a scarcity mindset. And so right now, because their particular topic is not one where they feel as though it's relevant, they're not talking about their particular topic. And so therefore, they're trying to scramble and find something else that they can talk about that they may not necessarily be an expert on. Here's where that does you an injustice and a disservice, is because first, when you have those who have been following you, who follow you for a particular topic, when you switch, you lose a lot of your engagement. You lose a lot of support. Now, some of you may say, well, none of my followers left, none of the people, right? But you've probably seen a shift in how they engage with your content. You've probably seen a shift in what it is that they're talking about on your, in your comments, or if they're talking at all in your comments. It's because they've seen a shift and it wasn't relevant anymore. You weren't relevant to them anymore. Also, when you stay consistent in your content, then that is what leads people to share it out. When we get in front of other people, it's because somebody loved our content and thought that somebody else should hear it. That is one of the most valuable assets that you have across social media, across the world. Word of mouth is still the number one marketing tactic. Why? Because people buy from who they know, like, and trust, and they know, like, and trust you from word of mouth. It's just valuable. It's truth. It's not going to change. It's not going to shift. I don't care how long we're in quarantine. It's not going anywhere. So you need to understand that you're in a position to where you can now say, okay, great, I can do X, Y, and Z. I can go here from the comfort of my home, but I still need to remain consistent in my content. That also continues to establish you as the expert in your industry. There are ways that you can go and modify your content to make it relevant to what we're going through right now. It's doable, but you're going to have to do the work in order for it to be successful, because again, you don't want to stray too far off topic because you lose your audience. I'm not saying this from something that I read or something that I heard, but I've actually had clients and customers and followers and people online that I've spoken to that they could tell the shift when I shifted from what they connected, what made them connect with me. When I shifted away from that, they shifted away. And then when I went back to that is when I started to see them come back. Very valuable. And I can tell you more about what happened during that time. That's a whole another episode. I got to make sure I write some notes so that way I can come back and talk to you guys about that, because that's valuable information for those of you who are vets in the game as the speaking industry, or those of you who are just coming in. Number 2 is networking. Networking is so important. And some of you may say, well, I can't get to a networking event because we're stuck in the house. We're all on punishment, on timeout. But there's actually a lot of people who've been doing virtual networking events. Now, this leads into number 3 as well. I'm going to tell you why. So virtual networking events are opportunities for you to come together with other people in your industry, those who are outside of your industry, other small business owners, and network. Really connect, give some tips, resources, talk, communicate, guys. One of those things that we do less and less of as we use more and more technology, right? But this gives you an opportunity to get back to that first thing that really got our name out there. It was talking to people. It was doing the legwork. This is your virtual legwork. And so attending networking events, I tell people this is the secret sauce, guys. I hope you're taking notes. Make sure that you have some type of tip to share. When doing a networking event, don't make it about you. Don't make it about people necessarily jumping onto your bandwagon or jumping onto your email list. But what is something of value that you can offer? Which leads to number 3, which is being that servant leader. Lead with service. I'm very consistent in my message of becoming #unmuted. And it's been the same message for years. It may have changed the title, but it's still been the same exact message. Wherever I show up, it's becoming unmuted. Every time I'm in a group or I'm doing a live training, it's always about being unmuted, because I think that it's very valuable for us as women to become #unmuted in a time where we've been literally given the floor more than any other time in history. We've been given the floor. We've been given access. We've fought and won in some areas for access to be granted to us. And so becoming unmuted right now is valuable. It's valuable for us. It's valuable for those that we're in contact with. It's valuable for our clients and customers as well. And so that's my consistent message all across social media. I'm your voice manager. With that being said, it takes us to, when we show up, if we're someone who is consistently a servant leader, that stands out. That is your business card. Somebody say it with me. That is your business card. Servant leadership is your business card. Trust and believe. And it's not even servant leadership that you have to do out in the forefront. It's not something that you have to be big and bold in doing. It's just leading with service. How can I serve the people that I'm going to be in front of? And so because of that, I've been given the opportunity to speak in front of Black Women Promote, which is a community of almost 25,000 women, small business owners and entrepreneurs from all over the world. I've been able to do a training in Black Speakers Network, which is a community of almost 10,000 people. And so here it is. Some of these bigger names are reaching out because I'm always somebody who serves. I'm always somebody who's connecting people and having conversations, because I think I'm really big on, not necessarily, I don't have to talk to everyone, but when I have those significant conversations, they really are valuable. And so, leading with service, I showed up to a virtual networking event that someone who I had served last year. Now, y'all better catch this. Someone I had served at her event that she did live last year. Shout out to Sherwood. And in serving at her event last year, she loved the way that I served. Something that I did really stood out to her. And so while on the networking event, the call, she shouted me out. Now, it wasn't, it wasn't like, oh, well, yeah. And, I'm like, oh, she shouted me out. Oh, yeah. Oh, but it was unexpected. But it also put me in a different space because people were saying, oh, wow, there's something about her that stood out to her to make her say that during this networking, during this virtual networking meetup, where there's like almost 100 speakers all in one space. It was really great. I think maybe about 10-15 people signed up to be guests on my podcast from that one networking event. So that's why I wanted to say that, as speakers, this is your time to pivot. This is your time to recreate the speaking stage. If you have a clean and clear message, your clean and clear message you can use on podcast interviews. Your clean and clear message can be used in blog features, magazine features. Your clean and clear message can be used in so many different ways. I have a magazine feature that's about to come out. Yes, while in quarantine, I have a magazine feature about to come out. I have several podcasts. I've been featured on Courageous Woman magazine. On their website, I've been featured. I was a part of their summit. So the opportunities are here. Are you taking advantage of the opportunities? And man, I said, well, it goes without saying that, we are innovative, we are creative, we do some phenomenal things. We, set the world on fire. We do some great things as speakers. We are always recreating and supporting those that we connect with. And in recreating and supporting them, sometimes we have to go back and say, am I recreating myself and supporting myself as well? So, people were like, well, what does that mean? This is probably one of the hardest things that I'm going to say to you. But from one speaker to another, has your speaking journey been more about you or the people you're trying to serve? Real talk. Has your speaking journey been more about you or the people you're trying to serve? Unfortunately, the reason why many of you have not been able to pivot in this time is because your speaking was more about you, not about serving people. Here's what I mean. I'm a podcaster. I'm always giving opportunities and opening up opportunities. So I love when I saw Dr. George Fraser, Brother Bradford, come together and do a podcast 2 days a week where they have people that are coming in and they're going live on Facebook. That is absolutely amazing. You want to know why? Podcasting is such a powerful platform. It's a power player move. They're not just putting it out there so they can be on the platform. They're going and they opened up opportunities for others to come on and for people to listen in and watch and have a conversation. Guys, they've been in front of thousands and thousands of people it's a way to keep people engaged. They weren't asking people to sign up and register. I mean, they weren't asking people to like buy into anything. They did, have people sign up so that way they could send you a reminder via email to let you know when the episodes are coming on. But look at that. Look at that. A podcast. They started it and have already had thousands and thousands of viewers and listeners. There are some others that have started podcasts in this time. There are some that have written books and launched and published books in this time. Great time to publish books because people are home. And so they're reading more. They're listening to podcasts more. They're sitting still. They're in one place. But if your focus is on you and what you can get out of the relationship or what you can get out of the transaction, then that's not what people need right now. Unfortunately, there are many people who need the motivation. And I know you should say, some people are like, no, you should be able to motivate yourself. Well, we all should be able to motivate ourselves. But if that was the case, then we wouldn't need personal trainers or diet plans. We wouldn't need Weight Watchers because we could motivate ourselves. But the reality is we do need that motivation. I think now more than ever, we need that support. And so when I did my own virtual summit called the World Voice Day Summit, we did it on World Voice Day and brought together some speakers who just could impact the listeners, and shift some things from, Kern Cherry to, oh my goodness, Jesse Sanders, Cassandra Elliott. Like, oh my goodness, if you saw, I don't know if you saw it or heard it, but they went in with motivating people. And it was just, we wanted to share a message of hope. It was just serving. And through that, I received an invite to another podcast interview. See how that works? All I wanted to do was serve. And another opportunity opened up. I'm consistent in my message and consistent in what I'm doing. And so a week or so ago, I had someone else reach out to me. Somebody who they don't even, they're not even, in my inbox on a regular basis, or they not, in my videos or nothing like that. They reached out and said, hey, I want you on this summit that I'm doing. Shout out to the Be the Fuel Youth Summit that just launched on April 20th. Shout out to Chaz Jackson. Man, when I tell you that it's been an opportunity to just connect and reevaluate what you want this speaker journey to look like for you. I get it. Nobody wants to be a broke speaker. And I get it. You're not able to do live events right now. But there are so many other ways for you to get in front of your audience and to really, you can still market. You can still sell. You can still serve. So remember, the 3 things that I told you that was really valuable for you right now is being consistent in your message. So valuable. Please don't flip-flop. I get it. I understand. You're like, maybe I should go to this because it's going to get me more money. I get it. I've seen people do it when they start their podcast. I've seen people do it. And then 6 months later, they're nowhere to be heard, nowhere to be seen because they've done all this flipping and flopping instead of staying consistent. And networking. Get out there, guys. Have a conversation. I know we are in all these Facebook groups, LinkedIn groups. Guys, have a conversation. Get in the DMs if you got to. Just don't be disrespectful. Get in the DMs if you have to. But just say hi. I think one of the, a crazy thing that happened was maybe about 2 weeks ago. I had someone reach out to me and they just were like, hey, let's have a virtual coffee. Hey, I'm with it. Let's go. Just to meet some people and really connect with people. And this is the time to do it. You have some time. Set yourself up to do virtual coffee and tea chats, maybe twice a week. It's definitely a great starting point. and, actually being engaged in some of these communities that you're a part of will definitely take you a whole lot further than you believe. And then leading with service. How can you serve someone in your community? How can you serve someone in one of these groups? How can you serve people? Can you serve them by showing up with a training, with motivational tips, resources? Whatever it is that you can do it. I know one of the things that we did, shout out to Dorothea Robinson, one of the team members. She went live in our hashtag World Voice League Facebook group and shared about 211 and 411 and what that, what those are and how they can help you even now and with being home and us going through so much. And it's interesting because 211 and 411 are not numbers that we teach our kids anymore. They're not numbers that we as adults really use, but they come in handy. And so she did a training, a brief, talk and training on what they are and how they are very valuable for you right now. But that's how we serve, right? It's not necessarily something she had to do, but it was very valuable information. And I've seen several people who, when they saw the video were like, oh, wow, yeah, I never even realized that or remembered that from childhood. And like I said, if you ask your children right now what 411 and 211 are, most of them will probably not know. Most of them will probably not know. Adult children and teenagers, younger than teenage, most won't know. But leading with service is very valuable, especially now. It's as a speaker, that can be your stage. Are you going to the different groups and the organizers of the groups and saying, hey, I would love to do a training in here. Can I do a training and, really empower your people? Remember, in just the last few weeks, I've been able to get in front of 50,000 people from all over the world. And it's not been by my own hand. It's not because I'm this loud person that everybody tunes into, or that, that there's some, crazy thing like I'm handing out laptops or, none of that. It's just being authentically me. I love, and no tea, no shade. I love what a lot of the business owners are doing in this time with helping other business owners. But man, I just want to go back to having conversations. I know it's the simple things, right? It's the simplest things sometimes that make the most impact. And so for some, it may be somebody needs a laptop. They need a training. For others, it's going to be they need access to you. And how are they getting access to you? As a speaker, as the expert in your industry, how are they getting access to you? So with that being said, I appreciate you guys. I tried to make this as short as possible, guys, because I really wanted you to listen in and get all of this. Because I want to see you excel in this time. Don't forget, come join the conversation, bit.ly/World Voice Community. It's a free Facebook group where you can come join the conversation. We would love to have you. Again, there's tips and trainings and resources in there for you guys. We want to make sure that you are being served at the highest capacity, even now where we can't see each other face to face. And on top of that, be sure that you go back over to the Facebook business page and check out the World Voice Day Summit replays. They are still there. We made a playlist for you guys because we want to spread hope during this time. And guess what? It takes each of us to be able to spread hope across the world. With that being said, I am your host, Tavise Pelzer, your voice manager. And until next time, guys, don't forget to press it out. See ya.